Rick, first of all, can we start with, I guess, Saturday night they're going to finally do the Ziggy presentation. What does he mean, not only for the Galaxy, but the Southern California soccer?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a legend of the game in the U.S., but specifically just the service, I think, to Southern California, both, even at the AYSO level to obviously the university level, the club level. He's been involved and up to the pro level. He's been involved in every level of the game here and has influenced also just generations, I think, of guys who played the game, who've gone on to be coaches, who've also had their influences inside the game. And so, the legacy that he's left around here, just in Southern California, but also I think just across the country, is incredible. And it's wonderful that we are finally getting to this moment, because we were going to do it a few weeks or months ago, and that we finally kind of get to this moment to rekindle this day is important, because he's certainly earned it and deserved it. And he was just a workhorse who was passionate and loved the game. And he would eat, breathe, sleep, everything was soccer all the time. And so I know he left a huge imprint on all of us and many of us who came through his tutelage and system.
What were your first impressions when you first met?
Very serious. I was a little nervous around him. Just again, he had the aura and the name of a guy who had already been around even the national team levels, and who had been coaching UCLA for years and won championships and put out guys who were playing at the national team and pro level. So my initial was a little bit, a little in awe, I think, of the stature of Ziggy and what all he had accomplished. And he can be very serious when he's around the game. He's no nonsense and very serious about things. And until you kind of get to really know him, then you start to and get into storytelling and listening to all those things, then you start to really get to know the heart of Ziggy, which is enormous. But when you're around the field and around the game, he's all business all the time.
In transition through these last weeks, especially this week here, how are you approaching this week here coming off of the loss in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, in general, we want to keep the competitive spirit, the energy alive. We're looking at these games. As I said to our guys, I've been impressed and appreciative of the character that they've shown over the course of the season in the face of a lot of challenges, and the guys have battled. I think back to there was a game a couple weeks ago on the road, Austin, I think, and we battled until the end, and like four guys just kind of drop on the field because they've given everything that they have. And I think guys have done that, and we fell short for other reasons. We fell short. We can get into that anytime, but ultimately we didn't get it done enough to get into the playoffs. But I want us to remain true to the character that I think we have expressed over the course of the season, which is we're going to go out and play hard, and we're going to fight and battle every minute of what we have left in the season for the fans, for our club, for each other, and that's how we will approach it. And so, there'll be some guys that I want to definitely get some experience to, or some minutes, or assess, and there'll be some of that inside of it. But we're going to go out and we're going to try to win the games. We're going to try to perform, and we're going to try to defend our stadium in the right way and get some results down the stretch.
We saw Johnny Perez out here, Marcus Recrinas, Adam Sedano has been with the group for a couple of weeks here. What do you want to see out of that group in training that possibly leads to more minutes before the season ends?
Yeah, with Johnny, we love his. He even came into these last couple of games, and I think he's really helped us and spurred some good moments on the attacking side of things. And he has a lot of talent. The maturity side for Johnny is just kind of on the defending, connection to the group, and being able to. I don't need him to be a great defender, nobody does, but to be a responsible defender, to be in the right spaces when he needs to help prevent things from going sideways, just when he needs to be out closing the ball, just to be responsible after his guy passes the ball to track. Just little details that are on the other side of it, that when you ultimately want players of that nature to become starters and play longer minutes, that you want those other little things in the game that can be solid, and sometimes it's without the ball. And because Johnny has a lot of talent with the ball. So it's continuing to mature him in those ways, but he's going to continue to need some repetitions to do that. And so I want to see him continuing to grow and mature and build up that side as in addition to just growing on the attacking side with his teammates and what he's trying to do and at that level. But those things defensively will help him to win more minutes inside of the group as he becomes more, more conscientious when he doesn't have the ball, what he's doing in those moments. For Marcus it's just a process for Marcus. It's for me, I see him as a defender first, and a center back that's on the ball second. And so I just think that he needs to continue to work on and learn the nuances of becoming just a good, solid defensive center back in his game reading, his choices. He can tend to get a little bit emotional in situations where he's over-aggressive or overplays, and just trying to, again, develop some maturity with him but we're not looking for him to play like Jalen. We want him to be a good, hard-nosed, ball-winning defender, but makes good decisions and helps the group, and that's what I think his career is going to look like. And so we wanted to just keep developing that. He doesn't need to be anything different than that. And with Adam, he's had a tough last year, and I think he's battled back this year to get himself both fit and on the right side of things. And so now it's just going to be, just seeing if Adam is going to be a part of the plans as we continue to move forward into this, because he's been here a couple of years. He probably needs to take another step forward at some point, at least be in the rotation or the mix of things. And for me with Adam, it's just been on the defensive ground covering side of things. I think he's pretty tidy on the ball. I think if he could cover ground a little quicker and get himself organized a little earlier, it would help him on both defending and attacking side of things. And so I think when he got injured and lost a little bit of a step, that was something he had to try to get back in his repertoire. So just want to see him again out in these training sessions. He's a highly, highly competitive kid. Sometimes we have to be like, take it easy on the tackle, but he's out here and he's fighting and he's competing, and he does have some qualities that are going to really help him to keep growing as a professional.
And both him and Johnny had injuries. Johnny late last year.
Yeah.
How did that set him back into this year?
Yeah, I mean, for both of them, the beginning of the season, preseason is an opportunity where you can really get you can get games against MLS teams. You can start to get some of that early maturity and against more veteran players or against high-level players. You get some of that in that preseason, and you get your rhythm as a player inside of that preseason. And it's hard sometimes to do that once the season kicks off and gets going. And Johnny was a little bit delayed in terms of his really getting back from there's a scope on his knee, and he was a little bit delayed in getting back to get those types of opportunities. But what he has done is he's grinded and he's really worked. And I think through using G2, he started to get more and more kind of influential in those games, and we started to see kind of the Johnny that we know emerging, and now we're starting to see it again around the first team. But some of these guys have to, have to come out of being like young players and start to move into being the next stage, which is good, stable, mid-tier pro,
yeah.
not, and then they can grow to be the guys who really make a difference. And so they're kind of that next step of maturity, I think, some of these guys did.
What's Riqui status this week or next week? Or?
Yeah, he's been out and running, and he's very good in straight lines. He feels great doing straight lines and stuff like that. Ball striking and hard, planting pivots and change of directions are still a bit of a struggle. So we're not going to rush him out there in this situation. It's a risk reward for him too, and so we'll probably hold off this weekend, and then we'll just see where he's at going into the last match. But until he really and him too, until he really feels correct, it becomes it's a risk reward play, and it doesn't make sense to put him out there if he's less than ready to go.
A couple more injury updates. Where is Gaston and Caligari at in their rehab process?
Yeah, so Gaston, Martin, Lucas. Gaston is probably a couple weeks from being back on the field and not training per se, but starting to do his return to play back on the field, which the timeline would be to have him ready to go at the beginning of preseason. There's not a rush to push anything before that, nor does the timeline make sense for that. But he's close to getting back on the field and starting his running and starting and doing those kinds of things. Lucas is further behind. He just had the surgery. Gosh, I would say probably maybe within a month ago or so. He's a little bit later. So he's still doing, his rehab and working in the gym and working with the therapists and building up, I don't know the steps totally, but he's building up again that mobility, flexibility, all the things that I think you need just to get that initial stage going. But everything went well, and he's moving in the right direction. So it's just going to be the process for him, Martinez is, again, he's further along. I would imagine that he, so long as he keeps feeling good in these steps, and I don't know, last time I spoke to him, he did some stuff and he said he still didn't feel great. And so it's just going to be, for him, it's a timeline of checking off the boxes to get back onto the field and making sure that he feels good. He's, his is a tricky one, and so it's just a little bit of a different scenario.
And Jalen, I know you said if you guys made a run, he would probably be able to come back, but now if there's no run, where does he?
Yeah,
you got to slow him down a little bit, or how do you slow him?
I don't think we slow him down. He's just, again, it's a sports hernia recovery, so we're not in a rush with him. But at the same time, we won't slow him down. As soon as he continues to, like I said, check off the boxes and the return to those kinds of things, and we'll keep building him up. But there's not a rush to have him back in the next 2 weeks. So, and nor would I think he would make it. But if we were going a little bit further than that, then we would maybe try to accelerate him and see how he was doing. But I don't think we're not there. So he'll conclude the season and where he is, and then we'll take the off season to continue to get him stronger and get him more prepared and durable for a long season. Because he went from G2 to the national team to being a starting guy who was playing week in and week out, and as a guy who's still growing and maturing, and he got a lot on his plate, early in this past season, and so we want to help give him the chance just to continue to be durable, so he can endure, the success that I think he's going to have as a player, both with us and the national team and everything else, because then the demands start to get really high on players.
You look at the new playoff format. I mean, there's a lot of talk of there's nine playoff spots. It should be easy to get in, but once you get in the season, look at the challenges that you have from preseason to now. What are your thoughts on the format, and also thoughts on this season? I don't want to go too much into the season recap stuff, but what are your overall thoughts on how this season sort of?
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to the playoff format, I think it is what it is, partly because between television and the league, right, as it stands or has stood, our playoff structure is such a small part of a 34-game season, and it's like this little mini tournament at the end. And when you look at all other professional sports, the playoffs play a more significant role in terms of number of games, in terms of its footprint on the whole season. Whereas in MLS, it's 5 games in and out. And I think also with Apple and the deal and the league is to try to create a bigger footprint on the playoffs, because that's really the do or die time that in our country, that's where people really tend to focus. And if it's so small, then it's just like it's in and out and you're done. And so it's been trying to grow that. So they looked at different formats. You could bring in even more teams and try to expand it out, or you can add more games. But these games come fast, and at the end of the season, it becomes a durability thing for players who have already put in a huge shift. So they went to the 1-3-1-1-1, I think, something like that. And so now you have this best of 3 series in there, which adds a couple more games. My preference all along was playing more home and aways and doing kind of the format we had a few years ago. The aggregate, I like it. I think it's traditional and in the sense of kind of the world. And I think if you end up playing the same opponent 3 times, I think it becomes really like monotonous in a way, and you get to play each other so many times in the regular season, and then you're playing each other 3 more times at the end. I just think it becomes a lot. And but nevertheless, the number of teams has grown a little bit. I think the league is difficult. I think the Western Conference in particular was interesting this season with the teams, and it was a battle. And for us personally, we got behind the season early. for whatever reasons, we can have a long discussion later or a short discussion, but we didn't get results early in the season, home or away, and I thought there was a couple in there that we could have and should have got. There were challenges for sure, but we end up in a position where we're kind of chasing the season, and then we have when we're kind of trying to catch up, we have injuries, we have limitations in terms of the player recruitment side of things, but all those happen, and at the end of the day, we as a group, we needed to get more points. But I think 9 teams is, I think it's fair, especially when you look across I'll speak mostly on the Western Conference. There's 9 teams that can beat anybody any given day. There's 10 or 11 that can beat anybody on any given day, which is what you want the playoffs to be. What you just don't want is the playoffs teams getting in that aren't going to put up a challenge, but if it's 9, if it's 10, whatever, as long as it's highly competitive and anyone can beat anybody, that's what makes it exciting, and that's what playoffs are really about. And so I think we're in the right wheelhouse. And for us personally, it was, again, we didn't execute in enough moments through the course of the season to be in the mix.
Yes, right.
Greg.